Okay, the Defund the Police vote in Minneapolis, Minnesota, November the 2nd. It is question 2 on the ballot. All right? So for all of you that live in Minneapolis, you're very familiar with this. For those of you that don't live in Minneapolis, you're also somewhat familiar with this, but I'm going to get into some detail about what the broader scope of this really means for the Democratic Party and for some of the initiatives that the Democratic Party is pursuing. The issue really here is the bill is set up to dismantle and defund the current police department of Minneapolis, replacing it with the Department of Public Safety, which would exert public safety functions through a comprehensive public health approach to be determined by the mayor and the council. Now, somebody's going to have to explain what the hell that means, okay? Because this is not the direction that I believe the city of Minneapolis or any other city needs to be going. Let's go back. In my first show, I was a completely appalled news person on the death of George Floyd. That was one of the worst scenarios that I ever witnessed in my entire life, on tape, on television, watching that poor man die needlessly, okay? I took an incredibly hard position on that, and I maintain that position today. Derek Chauvin is now in jail, and it's exactly where he needs to be based on the conduct that he had. But there was an incredible overreaction that I talked about as it relates to this whole thing. When it first started out, these were protesters. These were African Americans and others that were protesting police brutality. And I was 100% behind it. But what ended up happening is rogue forces got involved, Antifa, and I hate to say it, Black Lives Matter is a concept that makes a lot of sense, but it's a poorly run association. And I've given all the reasons for that, through the course of my shows. But the issue really here is that to defund the police now and put in, quote unquote, a public safety council run by the mayor and the city council, they can't run anything. Have we not proven that mayors have a hard time running anything? Billy D. de Blasio, worst mayor in the history of mayors, history of world existence, okay? Then you've got the Summer of Love mayor up in I believe, Seattle. And then you got my guy in Portland who, is embracing all these crazies, and then they go attack him at his house. There has to be law and order. And the law and order portion of it really protects the minority communities more than they protect the non-minority communities. And you've got now a divergence with this, and I'm gonna give a couple statistics. The best known progressives that are for this bill are the very controversial Ilhan Omar and Keith Ellison, who is the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, okay? They're for this bill, for this ballot 2, question 2, to just defund the police. Now, here's the good part of our democracy. Against is Senator Amy Klobuchar, violently against, okay, who ran for president, and I have a lot of respect for her as a former prosecutor, but a very, very smart senator. And Governor Tim Walz, who strongly opposes this. So there's moderate Democrat, involvement. And for those of you that didn't see my first shows, I grew up in a household that were Kennedy Democrats. So I understand this moderate Democrat scenario probably better than most, right? But the fact that there's a diversion now between the extreme far left and some of these moderates now has brought into question, how does this play out in the 2022 midterms, and how does it play out in 2024? This is not good for the Democratic Party. I'd like to see the Democratic Party get on more solid footing, because we need two parties that are debating our democracy, okay? That's hugely important. But when you see what's going on here, you could start to see now, assume this passes, which I don't believe it's going to pass. The mess that the Democrats would have on their hands for the midterms, it would be a landslide, because you could just see the ads that would come out on this. If it doesn't pass, then there's going to be a question about, the Democrats are fractured, which they are, and the Republicans are fractured, which they are. But for the Democrats on this issue, Sarah, it's a no-win. Mm-hmm. This is a no-win. And this is one of the, I'm very passionate about the fact that we need better police officers. We need better trained police officers. I think we need to get more background checks with these police officers, know what we're dealing with. Yeah. A racist police officer is the worst thing I can think of. And they're out there.
Yeah.
And you got to call out the ones that shouldn't be there. But at the same time, the whole defund the police thing, in my lifetime, I don't know that there's 5 things dumber than that.
I agree. And I also think, like, along the lines of what you were saying, shouldn't you put more money into the police entities in order to train them better if you're looking for better police?
Well, can you explain to me this whole public safety department? What the hell are they going to do?
I'm sorry, but if there's a domestic violence issue, or there's someone at my door with a gun,
well, how about there's a guy with a gun? I'm going to call out a psychiatrist that's going to come try to talk him down.
Exactly. I'm sorry, but I would rather a policeman with a gun show up at my door.
But I don't understand. No one's really explained to me what the Department of Public Safety is going to do in these situations.
Well, I don't think they have an exact plan, because first off, I truly don't think many people can believe that this is going to pass, but they have not thought this through, in my opinion. I agree with everything you're saying. I don't think this is something that can really push forward and be sustainable in our everyday lives.
The minority community needs this more than anybody.
Yep.
Again, what happened with George Floyd and others, it's not just George Floyd, there was a list of these things that are wrong. And we've got to prosecute these people, and we've got to call our police forces out to basically come to the conclusion that we're purging this thing to the point that policemen who shouldn't be policemen should be out of there.
Well, and unfortunately, and I'm not saying that this is okay, but there's going to be bad eggs in every single facet of life. In every industry, there's people who are bad or unethical, and unfortunately, in the police situation, especially the healthcare system, similarly, right. If you're a bad egg, you have a gun on your head. So I know it's more extreme.
But here's my problem. I've not heard of any doctors saying, I'm going to treat white people, but black people, I'm going to give them the wrong medicine.
I mean, not anymore, but you heard about, back in the 70s, everything that was going on with syphilis and doctors treating people poorly.
That's a good one.
But, think about the Dr. Dunch podcast here in Dallas. I mean, there was a man who was operating, right. but again, that kind of goes to the point, there's going to be bad eggs in every scenario, but you can't just completely wipe out doctors or wipe out police because of one bad egg.
And in closing on this subject, I think what I'm seeing in Washington are the far left progressives like Ilhan Omar and Ellison and AOC and all these people. They are wrecking the Biden agenda. They're really wrecking the agenda. And that's what I see. And the fact of the matter is, the Democrats have a real tiger by the tail here. They've really got to try to figure this out. But I think that this vote, good or bad, doesn't help them in the 2022 midterms.
I just hope it doesn't pass.
I don't think it will. We're going to keep a close eye on this one. Okay.